Junior high and high school, we have a class today for you in the back. Once a month, we're going to let them meet together. And so this is the week that we're doing that. So if there's any junior hires or high schoolers here that want to go, head on back there. If you're here for the first time, we're a Calvary Chapel Church. We teach through the Bible line upon line. We're currently in the book of Proverbs. If you don't have a Bible, raise your hand. Terry's got a handful there. We'd love you to follow along with us. I think the wonderful thing is the simplicity of the book of Proverbs. It was written so that it could be memorized. It was written from probably the wisest man other than Christ that ever stepped on the face of the earth. People came from all over the world to see his wisdom, to speak to him, to hear from him. God gifted him with incredible wisdom, and yet he failed so desperately. It was just tragic what he allowed to happen in his life, and it started with compromise. And he allowed things in that shouldn't have been there, and in the end, tragic. But he said it was all meaningless. All of that money, all of that prestige, 1,000 concubines and wives, more money than they could count, treasures that you can't even fathom. And he said it was all meaningless. It was worthless, the foolishness of it. And it's sad that somebody with that kind of wisdom would fall so short. But honestly, I don't see enough godly wisdom in the church in America. They're if they are hearing the word even, but if they're hearing the word, they go, yeah, I got that. But hearing it and living it are two different things. And the simplicity of this is just incredible. And if we would truly live in the simplicity of these Proverbs, we would be unrecognizable to the world. And that's what we are to be. This is not our home. This is temporary. This is growing grounds. We're to become more like Christ every day. And to do that, you have to live in his wisdom. When you ask Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior, the Holy Spirit came to dwell inside of you and allow you to have the power to do this. But you have the choice whether to live in wisdom or not. We should pray for God's wisdom. We should ask for God's wisdom. And if we're not living in that wisdom, we need to repent and start living in that wisdom. They're great reminders. There's 31 Proverbs. It covers every day of the month. It's a simple read, and it's a simple reminder. Do you know that advertising agents understand how to get to us? They just slam the same thing over and over and over and over again till it just becomes second nature. They know how to remind us of things, but we tend to not spend enough time in the things that we need to be reminded of. We're in Proverbs 10. It starts with verse 1, the Proverb of Solomon. A wise child brings joy to a father. A foolish child brings grief to a mother. The actions and choices of children have a significant influence on the emotional well-being of their parents. Through many conversations with pastors, it becomes clear that one of the deepest sources of sorrow for them is their children that have chosen a life of rebellion. Now, the struggle is not limited to church leaders alone. It's a common challenge faced by many parents, both with inside and outside of the church. And if even some of these hardships get solved, a new challenge has come up with a new generation, like grandchildren. Constantly, we're in prayer for our children, for our grandchildren, for the kids, and we should be, because the world they live in is after them. It wants them. Satan is the prince of the air, and the air is just filled with things to destroy our children. Our schools, our colleges, are filled with things to destroy our children. They need our prayer. They need our guidance. They need our love. If you've got small children, please don't let the schools dictate their righteousness and their wisdom. You have to speak to your children. It's not someone else's job. You have to remind them. You have to share them with them. You have to explain to them the consequences of bad choices. Now, when a child chooses to walk in the wisdom of God, it brings joy to the parents. That is my greatest priority for my children and my grandchildren, for them to walk in the wisdom of the Lord. Nothing makes me happier. They could make millions of dollars and it wouldn't even compare to their walk with the Lord. Verse 2, tainted wealth has no lasting value. I've seen that wealth illegally gotten doesn't ever seem to last. It disappears, especially for the child of God. He's just not going to let you get away with doing something that's dishonest. And the quicker that you learn that, the better off you're going to be. Goes on to say, but right living can save your life. You know, when you live right, do right, and are honest, you never have to look over your shoulder. It's such a blessing to not have to wonder whether you lied about something, or if you lied about something, or you did something wrong. You know, I shared before, there's a web browser scam out, and they send a letter. Dave Parada, we have your web browsing. We know what you've been looking at. Send us bitcoins and we won't release it. I laugh and I giggle because there is nothing they could do to me. There's not even a question. But for them to do that, you know that it works. There's too many people that absolutely freak out at that point. Look, when you're going down the highway and you see a highway patrol and you're doing 65, what a joy that is when you see the speedometer. But when you're doing 90, you're sweating bullets. Verse 3, the Lord will not let the godly go hungry, but he refuses to satisfy the craving of the wicked. David said in Psalm 37:25, I have been young, and now I'm old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his descendants begging for bread. Just as the wicked reach out to grasp satisfaction and fulfillment, it escapes them. You know the old song, I can't get no satisfaction. There's a hole that only God can fill in your life. They never find true peace. The craving for satisfaction never comes. Verse 4, lazy people are soon poor. Hard workers get rich. Some of this is such common sense, yet you don't see it lived out so often. The lazy, careless person is going to be poor. The one who's diligent and will not quit, no matter what the circumstance, is always going to succeed. I go back and think about the difficulties of having a family business and having that taken away after 14 years and not knowing how to support my family and what I was going to do. And I started doing everything and anything I could. And hardships came. The first big Starbucks I ever did for a guy, when he got the money to pay me, the IRS took all his money because he hadn't been paying his taxes. I didn't even know how I would ever recover that. And I remember not even wanting to get out of bed. I was so defeated. And I had a pastor friend of mine with great wisdom said, David, get up, go to work, and go to work the next day, and go the next day, and someday it'll be history. And he was right. I ended up getting all the Starbucks. I got it, if I'd have quit with that disappointment and that, if you won't quit, if you never give up. I tell people in ministry when they want to get in ministry, the only way the enemy can win is if you quit. It's only by quitting that he has success. And yet, when we get discouraged, when we watch people turn against you, when you see the difficulties or you see people fail and I just don't feel like that's the time more than ever is that you just keep going. And in the end, you see the victory every time. It goes on in verse 5 to say, a wise youth harvests in the summer, but one who sleeps during harvest is disgraced. Well, wise youth, by harvesting the summer, the crops are ripe. It's working when work's available. But the lazy procrastinator sleeps. And then when its opportunity comes, they've missed it. Verse 6, the godly are showered with blessings. The words of the wicked conceal violent intentions. You know, a righteous life receives blessings from God. Blessings are not always financial. Blessings could be health, children that love the Lord, a roof over your head, and blessings could be things that you just take for granted. There's a strong difference, though. The righteous enjoy the things that God gives them, but the wicked face trouble because of their actions. In Luke 6:45, Jesus stated, the evil man brings evil things out of an evil that's stored up in his heart. It's already there. He just brings it out. Verse 7, we have happy memories of the godly, but the name of the wicked person rots away. You think about somebody who's lived a godly life and they've gone to be with the Lord. Every time you think about them, there's a joy. Every time their face comes in a picture into your mind, you think, what a joy. We've had so many folks since this church started 20 years ago that have gone to be with the Lord. And the righteous and the God lovers and the people that served him are the greatest memories for me. But the name of the wicked person rots away. A holy life leaves fine memories long after the person's gone. The name of the wicked leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You know, people still call their children Paul, but nobody calls their child Judas. Verse 8, the wise are glad to be instructed, but the babbling fools fall flat on their faces. Man, that's just so true. Wise people are willing to learn and listen. Their openness helps them grow and learn to make good choices. But those who refuse advice and ignore instruction, they end up failing. They keep doing the same thing over and over again. Accepting wisdom leads to success, but rejecting it results in troubled life. Verse 9, people with integrity walk safely, but those who follow crooked paths will slip and fall. There's safety and security in an upright life. You don't have to look over your shoulder. There's no skeletons in the closet. But the life that's built on deception will be found out and exposed. The cheat and the liar are always found out. They're always found out. Eventually, it always comes to light. It's naive, it's ignorant to think that you can live as a cheat and a liar and nobody knows. Everybody knows. Verse 10, people who wink at wrong cause trouble, but a bold reproof promotes peace. This passage talks about pretending to be honest when secretly meaning something else. This kind of dishonesty breaks trust, causes problems. And when this behavior is confronted and corrected by somebody that's willing to learn wisdom, it helps restore honesty and brings peace. Verse 11, the words of the godly are a life-given fountain, but the words of the wicked conceal violent intentions. Basically saying the mouth of a righteous person is refreshing, it's edifying, it's comfort, it's counsel. The words of the wicked are hidden with deception and always self-edification. Verse 12, Hatred stirs up quarrels, but love makes up for all offenses. Gosh, grace, huh? I was just praying this morning and thanking God for his patience for me, his long suffering, waiting for me in my rebellion, loving me for my mistakes. He's an incredible God. But hatred results in conflict because people who lack in grace don't live together in peace. Love gives peace because it covers or forgives the faults of others. Love doesn't dwell on other people's faults. I've known so many that just can't let go. But that's because they've not truly, fully understood how much they've been forgiven for themselves. When you understand what we deserve as a human and what God has forgiven, how can you not forgive others? Verse 13, wise words come from the lips of people with understanding, but those lacking sense will be beaten with a rod. The conversation of an intelligent person is helpful to others. A fool helps no one, but only succeeds in bringing punishment to themselves. Verse 14, wise people treasure knowledge, but the babbling of a fool invites disaster. Here it says that wise people value knowledge and store it up for precious moments. They reserve what they have to say for the right time, place, and persons. When and where you say something is everything. How you say something is everything. You can ask me anything in love and I'm there for you. But if you yell at me, shout at me, scream at me, belittle me, you will get nothing. I remember working for this place that made modulars, and we were doing the electrical for all of them. And we got to know the owners and the employees, and it was just great. My team went in, they loved my team loved them, and they were doing stuff for us. They were moving things out of the way. They would pre-drill walls for us. They were helping us in every way. It was just awesome. And we hired this guy, he wasn't a Christian, very talented, and he came, and I was out at another job, and he was on that job, and he went out and told the owner's son, I need you to get over here and put this in here and put that in there and put that. We lost everything that we had worked so hard for. The owner went storming out of there. Who do they think they are? I got the phone call. We could ask the same thing in a different way and get them to help us forever. But knowing how to say it, when to say it, who to say it to, it's critical. People with knowledge understand that. But you never know what a foolish mouth will say. They're always bringing trouble to others and themselves. Problem is, many times, they just don't have a filter. Verse 15, my famous saying that everything that goes in your mind should come out of your mouth. And it's just so simple, but it's so true. Nobody wants to be around someone that everything goes through their mind, comes out their mouth. Verse 15, the wealth of the rich is their fortress. The poverty of the poor is their destruction. This is interesting. Wealth is help in many ways. There's security from many dangers, and it can help give us independence. The destruction of the poor is poverty. The poor are basically crushed, exposed to all kinds of disadvantages. And this here gives a sense of the ability to even help themselves. Here's the danger of the rich to trust their wealth instead of God, and the danger to the poor not trusting God in their poverty. If you're not trusting God, both are equally wrong. We need to trust God whether we're rich or poor. Verse 16, the earnings of the godly enhance their lives, but an evil person squanders their money on sin. Look, the modest possessions of a righteous person are more meaningful than any type of riches of the wicked. There are those who are righteous, and they may earn what they so hardly work for. Their focus is on not accumulating wealth or achieving status. Instead, their primary goal is to take care of their families through honest labor. Their willingness to share with their community, hard work, and all the things they do, and generous for others, is far more important than huge amounts of wealth. Their lives are characterized by integrity, generosity, and they bring fulfillment that material abuse cannot. All the profit that a wicked make are used for ungodly things of this world. It leads only to death. Their lives are for self-satisfaction that cannot be reached. Verse 17, people who accept discipline are on the path to life, but those who ignore correction go away astray. Listen, the person who receives or accepts instruction, teaching, they have a better chance in life. The word ignore here means to refuse or fail to accept. A common expression for this is turn their backs on. This means wandering away from the right path of wisdom. Verse 18, hiding hatred makes you a liar. Slandering others makes you a fool. Anyone who hides hatred has lying lips. The first part of the verse refers to a person who conceals their true feelings of animosity while outwardly pretending to be someone's friend. This person claims to have a friendship, but they don't feel it, making their words absolutely hypocritical. And that goes on a lot. But even worse is slandering. It makes you a fool. Only a foolish person indulges in either insincere or slanderous speech, because a sensible person knows that sooner or later the truth will be known. Verse 19, this is good. Too much talk leads to sin. Be sensible and keep your mouth shut. The words of the godly are like sterling silver. The heart of a fool is worthless. The words of the godly encourage many, but fools are destroyed by their lack of common sense. You know, I love that saying. It's a great saying. It's better to have people wonder if you're a fool than to open your mouth and prove you're one. The more people talk, the greater risk of saying something inappropriate. Isn't that true? Matthew 12:36 tells us, and I tell you this, you must give an account on Judgment Day for every idle word you speak. Wow. James 1:26 tells us, if you claim to be religious, but you don't control your tongue, you are fooling yourself and your religion is worthless. Too much mindless talk leads to exaggeration, untruthfulness, slander, and unkindness. So the person who refuses to use their lips for wisdom is not understanding that we have 2 ears and 1 tongue. There was a design by the Creator to put this in place, but most of us don't use this properly. Verse 22, the blessings of the Lord makes a rich person, and he adds no sorrow with it. The blessings of the Lord brings wealth. And again, wealth can mean more than money. And the second line affirms the idea that wealth given by the Lord to a righteous or diligent person is not accomplished, and it's not accompanied by any type of trouble. Trouble comes from ill-gotten gain. There's always going to be a hook of ill-gotten gain that'll bring sorrow. You know, I had a young man that I knew, and I watched him grow up, and lived in a home, great parents. In a sense, they never wanted their kids in church, which was their weakness. And their thought was that he was going to have to work his whole life. So up till 18 years old, didn't want him to have a paper route or do chores, and they went to every baseball league, they went to every soccer league, they went to every event. Their life surrounded their kids' events from morning till night, and nothing was expected of them except for, enjoying their first 18 years of life. Then the father's thought was, at 18 now, okay, you've had it made, now go out and make a living. And the disadvantage to this child was he grew up thinking that the world revolved around him. Everything was about him. Their parents' whole life was about them. Every event was about them. So he expected the world to be that. Now go make a living. What do you mean go make a living? He had never done any chores. He never done any work. They never had to. And so he was very intelligent. Well, you know what he figured out? You could sell drugs and make a lot more money than getting a job. And he became one of the largest drug dealers, and he was very smart, and he outsmarted the cops, and he had every motorcycle, every car, every snap-on tool. He had everything you could imagine. And you watch this, and nothing fulfilled him. None of that stuff made him right. You watched this young man that you would have thought coming out of a family that gave him everything would be terrific. You watched him doing, and everything I saw him own crumbled. He crashed the motorcycles, broke every bone in his body. The stuff fell apart. I helped him clean out 2 storage sheds that didn't have 2 pieces of anything that went together. All of that material stuff that he got ill-gotten, none of it stuck. None of it lasted. I pray for him all the time. I love this kid. I watched him grow up. Even came and lived with us for a while. Talented, gifted, could do anything he wanted. But his parents didn't do him any favor. An ill-gotten gain just doesn't last. And even if it lasted this whole lifetime, it doesn't move into the next lifetime, and that's eternity. Verse 23, doing wrong is fun for a fool, but living wisely brings pleasure to the sensible. You listen to stories of anyone that was living ungodly before they found Jesus Christ, and they'll tell you that they had it all, and nothing could find peace in them. True pleasure comes from living in the knowledge of the eternity with God. Nothing else can fill that hole. Some people can learn that right away, and some people have to go through the heartache. Verse 24, the fears of the wicked will be fulfilled. The hopes of the godly will be granted. When the storms of life come, the wicked are whirled around, but the godly have a lasting foundation. Where would we be without the Lord? When we look at the world around us, we see what humans are capable of. We see what's going on in our government. We see what's going on in the world. Where would we be without our foundation? How would we survive? You know, when people lose a loved one that's a believer, it's just as painful as someone that isn't a believer. But there's a hope. There's a foundation. There's something that says that we'll be together again. There's something that says that you're not suffering anymore. You know, someday we'll all be together again in awe of God. The peace that brings that the world doesn't have. See, a storm can come suddenly and bring disaster to the wicked by destroying their lives and their property. But the righteous are more secure. The righteous have something to hang on to during the storms of life. And even if the storm takes our life, we have heaven. We are so blessed to have known Christ. We have a peace that nobody can have without him. And it's important as we're sharing the gospel that passion comes through. It's critical. Look, turn or burn is never going to save anyone. But the hope of Christ that we have has got to be attractive to someone that doesn't have that. Verse 26, lazy people irritate their employees, like vinegar to the teeth or smoke to the eyes. Look, at vinegar sets teeth on the edge, and smoke irritates the eyes. He uses great examples. And this is what a lazy employee does to an employer. It's frustrating, annoying to the employer. I was talking to John this morning, and he went over and helped with the Christmas tree lot. Hey, John's up there. He's in his mid-60s. He looks like he's 30, but he's there. And one young scrapping guy there, John was taking down 10 to 15 trees out of the truck to every one of the other guys. And he just looked at that and he just go, what are you doing? You're the strongest you've ever going to be. You're young, you're healthy. And the guy was walking around trying to look like he was working the whole time John was taking trees out. It's vinegar to your teeth. It is. It's smoke to your eyes. A lazy employee, there's no joy in it. Verse 20, guys, if you work for someone, work unto the Lord. Even if the person's not thankful or grateful or anything else, work unto the Lord. I've watched some young people in this church with that type of attitude move up in companies so fast, set records. I know a young guy that was the first foreman in his company ever at his age. And now he's number 3 in the company. I mean, it's just unbelievable to watch. To see Nate start wiring things, and to become a journeyman electrician, and to watch the people that you see because they were diligent, they worked hard, they worked unto the Lord. I share with you all the time. When I had my company, I went to work with the guys every morning. I was the first one there, and I was the one to put everything where at the end of the day. And that's how we trained our guys. And then if they were on a job and I was on another one, I would get foremen to call me and go, do you know that your guys work just as hard when you're not around? They were blown away for it. And I could tell them, they work unto the Lord. And they would go, what? And I go, their work ethic comes from their godly ethic. As a Christian, that's what they should be. And what a witness it was for me to be able to share that with people that weren't believers. People watch you. People watch you. Employers watch you. People watch you. If you have a job and you're an employee, you be the best employee there. You think about that company, whether it's making money, whether you're wasting time or you're making time, and you should be making time. Verse 27, fear of the Lord lengthens one's life, but the years of the wicked are cut short. Well, a devout, godly life leads to longevity in a sense that wicked people are cut off prematurely in death. Think about the amount of death caused by drunkenness, drugs, indulgence, or just being in the wrong crowd at the wrong time. It cuts life short. Verse 28, the hopes of the godly result in happiness, but the expectations of the wicked come to nothing. I mean, this is just so simple. It's so fundamental. It's so basic, but you don't see enough of it. There's nothing but foolish, false hope for the wicked. Again, the godly have the hope of eternity. It will help us to have happiness while we're here on earth. But we're going to have it forever in heaven. Verse 29, the way of the Lord is a stronghold to those with integrity, but destroys the wicked. Bottom line, it keeps telling us, the Lord will destroy the ways of the wicked. God always wins. You may think you win by being deceptive or lying or getting ahead, but you don't. Verse 30, the godly will never be disturbed, but the wicked will be removed from the land. God's promises to us are not that it's going to be easy when we're on the face of the earth. There's going to be difficulty, there's going to be storms, and there's going to be times that are difficult. But what we have waiting for us, where it says exile was promised as a punishment to the Jews, it was because of their disobedience, and they're still experiencing the effects. It shows the serious results of not following God's instruction and how those consequences can last for generations. The Jewish nation is still God's chosen people, but their rebellion has cost them even today. You know, we can be naive to think that the Jewish people are all perfect and they don't make mistakes and they're not doing anything wrong and their government's absolutely godly. That's never been the history of the Jewish people. They've rebelled against God. They rejected Christ. But bottom line is they're still God's chosen people. And they will come back, because we read Revelation. We can see the Jewish people have a time coming. And there are Jewish Christians today. But the rejection of Christ, they're stiff-necked people that the Bible describes them, has caused them pain. Verse 31, the mouth of the godly person gives wise advice, but the tongue that deceives will be cut off. The lips of the godly speak helpful words, but the mouth of the wicked speak perverse words. As the worship team comes up, you can say, well, Pastor, you're saying the same thing over and over and over again. It's written that way. So the same thing just gets planted over and over and over again until we get into the circumstance and we know what to do. We know what to say. We know what to do. We know how to act. Proverbs is a tuning fork for the wisdom of God in our lives. I've told you before how I depend on godly people that say what's true. The wicked person distorts the facts, and the Bible calls it speaking perversion. I want to know when somebody tells me something, that's what it is. I don't want to have to guess. It's critical, if you're a Christian, never to allow yourself to make the advantage by telling something to somebody that's not true. You don't win. Eventually you get found out, and what happens is you lose your testimony, and you lose the ability to put a smile on God's face. When you do what's right, even if it's going to hurt, the Father in heaven is like a proud father. When I hear about my grandkids doing something incredible, or my children doing something incredible that was selfless, I'm so proud. I'm so proud. When you have the realization that you are capable of doing that to Him, it should drive us to do that. It should make us our greatest desire. Would you stand with me? May the Lord bless you and keep you. May your week with Him be sweet and tender. Father, I pray that you quiet us down. Speak loud into our hearts. Father, we want to live in your wisdom. We want to die to our flesh. We want to bring a life that brings you joy, brings you happiness, because you deserve it, Lord. Thank you for your patience and your long suffering. Help us not to make you suffer through our lives and our decisions. Help us, Lord, where we're weak. Don't let us get up in the morning. Don't let these feet touch the ground until we've asked you to fill us with the power of your Holy Spirit, enabling us to choose wisely, Lord. And we ask it in Jesus' precious name. The church said, God bless you guys.